Wow, we're going to have quite a summer if going into it it's like this. Because it's March. Usually we don't have anything mornings quite this pleasant and warm until much later. But anyway, right-wing literacy stuff that I was bringing up before applied in plain sight. That it's like, this is why you get this reaction. There's these, the gaming journalists and journalists generally, when they're, when you look over the ones that are in, the sort of the mass media that everybody reads, Newsweek, Forbes, the whole panoply, MSNBC, CNBC, CBS, all these, the overwhelmingly Democratic Party voters, loyal Democrats, they generally liberal-leaning. When clinical psychology looks into journalists, they're often people who are going to suffer from psychopathy at like the highest. Like there's almost no other job that pulls psychopaths in as much as that, because in a way they're gossips. Like Taylor Lorenz really shows like this sort of ultimate like peak journalist. Yeah, gaming journalists, peak journalists. So, what now this point of view? Why would anybody even kind of have this point of view? Because it existed in movies. In old movies, there would be these, reporters, and nobody wanted to talk to some reporter ever. In all the movies, all the old black and white movies, he would be asking like, "Are you a flatfoot? Are you a reporter?" Because of the questions he's asking, things like that. So that's what our culture has always kind of had this thing about them, and the muckraker and yellow journalism, stuff like that. So we embrace them for a while, then they spoil. They put salt in the soup, put too much salt in the soup, and then we push the journalists away, realizing like, wait a second, something's funny about these people, So you would really have this general heuristic of suspicion around a lot of journalists if you were familiar with a book that usually the right is very familiar with, and that's Edward Bernayz's book, Propaganda. Edward Bernayz was the nephew of, not young, Freud, and is one of these extremely important people in the history of public relations. I mean, to the point that he's where we get the smoking suffragettes. When I actually was explaining to somebody that was just to sell cigarettes, it like really took this hippie dip feminist chick, millennial, like it took her like moments to really kind of, you could tell her brain couldn't reprogram itself fast enough to understand, wait, so I was duped. Like our whole society was duped, and that one of the key symbols of feminism of an era was just a cigarette advertisement. It has paid a bunch of young women to advertise cigarettes, period. Nothing more, nothing less. But the feminists ate it up at the time, because that's the mentality of such people. So, knowing things like this, the reaction to games journalism and the reaction to journalists, the reaction to people like Sweet Baby, these are all things that would have been covered in the book Propaganda. You would easily be able to take some of his various examples of groups that use propaganda, that you utilize them for propaganda, all these different things, the various interest groups, and so if you knew that, you would, who knows what you could have done, but you probably would have done something different, because you would have had a different mentality, understanding that you shouldn't propagandize people poorly. You should make a good product and separate your political messages from the products that are supposed to generate the revenue so you could pay your debts back. Hence all these studios that folded after working with Sweet Baby and taking their advice. So, all right, yeah. So there's that literacy applied, and you'll find, a lot of people have read propaganda, are familiar with it. Not everybody on the right, but especially if they're older, 40s and upper 30s. Right, later.